I think the biggest mistake content creators are making now is two things. I think one is making content that doesn't make them happy. And I know it sounds so cliche to say, and it's like, oh, like happiness, but it's genuinely true, because when you start making content for the numbers, you start to lose the love for it. And then that can just kind of snowball into you not wanting to make content anymore. And then I think the other thing is, don't pigeonhole yourself into one thing. It's good to have a niche for sure, but if you want to try something new, try something new. If I didn't try something new, Uncle Yusuf would have never existed.
Welcome to another episode of Yalla, let's talk. Today we're going to be talking about how to become a full-time content creator. We have with us Jessie. Jessie is a Toronto-based content creator and comedian known for his iconic skits and impressions of Toronto culture and of Arab culture. Hashtag Uncle Yusuf. His Canadian audience has amassed over 500,000 followers on TikTok and over 250,000 or 250,000 on Instagram. Welcome, Jessie, Jaurji.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. We're very happy that you're going to be talking to us about content creation and how you make that a full-time job. I know a lot of our listeners are content creators and they may wonder, is this something that they can actually turn into a career? And you did. And the first question I have is first, how did you even start creating content? Like, how did you even begin this career path?
So it started in March of 2020, which is also kind of when COVID started. I was in my third year of university and I just kind of downloaded TikTok on a whim. I've heard so many people before saying, oh, it's just like a bunch of teenagers dancing. Like there's nothing for you on TikTok. But I've had other people tell me like, oh, you should make some videos. You should try, like, you're really funny. You should try and make some content. So I downloaded TikTok, I think literally like a week before the whole COVID thing happened. And I started just posting videos here and there. And then probably about 2 weeks into COVID, I posted my first video that kind of went like semi-viral. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. Like I posted the video, grabbed lunch with my mom and my sister, and just I keep refreshing the video and I see it's at 1,000 views. I'm like, oh man, 2,000 views, 3,000, and it gets to like 5,000 views. And I'm like, whoa, like this might actually be something. And then I don't check it for a little while, and by the end of the day it's at like 50,000 views, and I'm like, okay, this is serious. Like I can maybe actually do something with this. And then from there I just kind of kept making videos, and back then it kind of started with the Toronto content, and that's how it really blew up. But yeah, just that was crazy to say, but like 3 years ago, and now here we are.
I love that. And I feel like a lot of content creators, they started their journeys during COVID. This was probably the best time. Everyone was on their phone. Digital consumption has increased. And I just want to now ask you more about like who you are as a character, because the characters you've developed, whether you're a Toronto man's or whether you're Uncle Yusuf, there is a lot of acting. Have you always been an actor your whole entire life?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't say I've been a professional actor, but I've enjoyed acting. I always like making people laugh. And I think that's the biggest thing is just comedy. I like making people laugh. I've done talent shows, and I remember in grade 12, I did stand-up comedy in my high school talent show. So I've always wanted to make people laugh. But I feel like I've always had a knack for acting. But I mean, nowhere good enough to be like a real actor, but TikTok's enough.
The hashtag Uncle Yusuf is one of my favorite characters.
Thank you.
And you mentioned also that you started during the pandemic. You built your career from a time where, as I mentioned, everyone was consuming content. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting now, when TikTok and social media is a little bit more saturated than it was?
I think the biggest thing is consistency. That is the most important thing. So many people are trying to become content creators, but it's just sticking with it. I don't like to give a number out like Gary Vee and say like you got to post 5 videos a day or anything like that. But whatever you can keep consistent, whether it's posting every day, whether it's 3 times a week, whether it's once a week, whatever it is to you, continue to do that. And I think the other biggest thing is, and I actually heard Mr. Beast say this, and I'm like, man, it makes so much sense. But every video, try to make it just a little bit better than the last one. Try to make one thing a little bit better, and eventually you will become a better content creator. Sometimes the views don't necessarily come right away, but if you stick with it, I feel like a lot of the times the views will come.
Okay, I like that. I like that concept of just being consistent, and I think that's in anything that you do. Whether you want to create content, whether you want to get fit, whatever it is, being consistent is a starting point. And I also like the fact that you mentioned consistency does not necessarily have to be correlated to a specific number. I can imagine, posting 5 times a day, it may increase, your algorithm, it may help, but sometimes consistency can mean posting 3 times a week, or it can mean posting once a week, but doing it at your pace and then gradually increasing that, making sure that also, like you said, making the video become better and better each time.
For sure. And I think going off of that, like for me, consistency has changed from the beginning of my journey till now. Like it started with me posting for fun, maybe once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And then when I kind of started gaining more and more followers, I started being more consistent, and I started posting every single day for a while during the pandemic. I think 6 months or maybe even a year, I was posting every single day. And then now, very luckily, we feel like we're out of the pandemic and things are very much back to normal in a lot of ways. And now I can't keep up with that once a day anymore. So my consistency's changed, and now it's 3 to 4 times a week. So that consistency based on what you're doing in your life, it can change, but it's just being consistent.
Being consistent. And just on that note as well, is when you've created the content, or when you started creating content, you developed 2 very cool brands, the Toronto Mans and Uncle Yusuf and the Lawyer. How do you come up with these brands, and what advice would you give someone who is trying to develop a niche?
So to answer your first question, where did I come up with the characters? The Toronto Man, or DK as a lot of people call him, that started in high school. So I grew up in Ajax, and at my high school, like it was kind of split up into 2 groups. There was like the hockey boys, and there was like the Toronto Mans, and like there was just kind of these 2 groups, and most of my friends were in that Toronto Mans group, and I just kind of slowly started to adopt, the slang started coming, all these different words, and it like genuinely for a very long time was how I talked. Obviously not to the extent that I do on TikTok. You have to exaggerate a little bit for the video, but for the most part, that's kind of how I talked, and that's where the character came from. And I always just found the way Toronto Mans talk to be so funny, like just the way they use their words was hilarious to me. And then when it comes to the Uncle Yusuf character, a lot of that was just inspiration from all kinds of different Arabs in my life. I mean, just growing up, whether it was going to church or going to family gatherings, like doing all these things, you just meet all these different types of Arabs, and you start to see kind of the similarities between them, and kind of just how they speak and how they interact, and the hands and everything. And that's kind of where the characters came from.
I love that. And what I've picked up on right now is you are a Toronto Mans, or at least you were in high school.
Absolutely.
What do you think is like the most common stereotype of a Toronto Mans?
Man, there's so many. I think with me, a lot of it was like junior chickens, or just like going to McDonald's, getting cheap food. And there's so many things just about like, wearing the Blue Jays hat, wearing the Timberlands, wearing a North Face jacket. I feel like those are the big stereotypes of like what someone from Toronto, like how someone from Toronto dresses and what they do.
I like that. And the accents as well. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. So yeah, the accent, like I said, with the Toronto men, it was just like, it was genuinely how I talked. Like that was how I spoke, was kind of like how DK speaks.
So how did you transition from being a Toronto man into this eloquent, articulate Jessie?
Well, I mean, my parents definitely made sure, like they are real Middle Eastern parents. They definitely made sure I was getting good grades and I was focused on school. But in high school, it was just kind of, when you start hanging around people long enough, you start to speak like them, you start to dress like them, you start to just be like them, and that's kind of where it came from.
It's true as well. Thank you for sharing that. I want to just bring this back to content creation again. I just wanted to ask, how did you then eventually become a full-time content creator? So you started off in the pandemic, started creating content, you developed those niches, and now content creation is your full-time job. How did you do that?
A lot of it was luck. I'm going to be honest with you. So, like I said, I started making videos in March of 2020. By that summer, I had gotten my first offer of like a paid gig. And it's funny, it was actually a weed shop. And then for anyone listening that's not from Canada, weed is legal here. So, but so a weed shop reached out to me and they wanted they wanted me to film a video in their store. And I'm like, okay. And that was my first deal. And I was there for a couple hours. They paid me a couple $100. And that was huge. Like, I was like, whoa, like I can actually make money doing this. And then slowly as time went on, I got more companies reaching out to me. I got bigger companies like McDonald's and Harvey's and MLSE, and it just kind of went from there. And then about a year ago, I signed with an agency so now I have representation and I'm making more and more deals, and it just kind of snowballed into a full-time thing. Like I never planned for it to happen. I had a job throughout all of this, but up until like a year ago. And then, last year it kind of all changed, and now it's my full-time gig.
Well, congratulations. I feel like a lot of people listening will be inspired to know that you can actually make content creation a full-time thing. And I think one thing I just want to dive deeper in is how could content creators make money? Because you talked about influencer marketing. Can you tell us a little bit more about how content creators can actually make a living?
100%. So for me, the way I make money is I make my regular videos. I do not get paid a cent for that. The regular Uncle Yusuf videos, the lawyer videos, this and that, I do not get paid a cent. Where I get paid is when brands reach out to me or my management and they want a video for either a product they have or a service, or whether it's a video on my page or a video I make for them for their page. Both sides negotiate, we agree on a price. And then that's kind of how I get paid. I get paid from the company for me to make content for them. That's kind of how I get paid now. To my knowledge, in the States, there is like a TikTok specifically, there's a TikTok creator fund where you can get paid based on views. From what I know, in Canada, that doesn't exist yet. And even though it does exist in the States, apparently it's like you're making pennies. Like it's a very little amount unless you're getting like millions and millions and millions of views, which I'm not on that level yet.
And I liked how you said yet. You're gonna get there.
You never know.
Yeah, I love that. It's so a lot of the way you're making a living is really through the influencer marketing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what's interesting to also point out is that some influencers or content creators may make some money from influencer marketing deals. Like you said, there might be they can make money from TikTok, maybe YouTube or other social media platforms where they can generate revenue. And then you mentioned the agency, and now you're represented by management. How did you find management? And what advice would you give someone if they are looking for that representation?
So with my management, they're called Shine Talent Group. So shout out to Shine. They've been amazing ever since I signed with them.
Shout out Shine.
When it came to Shine, they reached out to me, just asking if I had representation, if it was something I was interested in. We set up a meeting. It was still like during COVID for the most part. So we set up a Zoom call, and we just kind of talked about what it would entail, what it would look like. And it kind of went from there. There's tons of different agencies. So for someone who wants to kind of have representation, you can definitely reach out. And I've heard that I've seen people do that before. But the biggest thing is, like, for me, why I decided to sign with someone is because I felt like at the time I was finding companies that want to work with me, but there were a lot of companies that it's hard for me as an individual to reach out to. But when it comes to an agency, they have the connections. They can reach out to bigger companies. They can get you bigger deals. And for me, I just want to make the content. I hated doing all this stuff, negotiating. I hate talking about hated talking about money with companies. I hated having to read the contracts. They're so long and tedious. And I was like, let me just have someone that can take care of all that for me, and let me just worry about the content creation. But to go back to your question, for people who want to do it, it's, do your research and see if there's an agency around you that fits for you.
Just bringing it back to now, just to becoming a full-time content creator. So we mentioned having management and manager and agency that will find you deals and build your empire, your social media empire.
Yeah.
What social media platform do brands target in your experience?
I would say brands want Instagram more, but I think there's definitely a demographic for TikTok. There's definitely brands that prefer TikTok. just because it's so different. But I think when it comes to the big companies, Instagram is kind of where it's at, especially from the creator side in terms of making money. Instagram is the better option.
Why do you think that is?
I think with TikTok, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but you can grow much more quickly on TikTok compared to Instagram. Because, I mean, to keep it simple, like I have over 500,000 followers on TikTok. Just because I post, like I can post on my For You page, people that don't follow me will still see my videos. Whereas Instagram, if I post on Instagram and I have 250,000 followers, there's a very good chance that a lot of those followers are going to see my video. Whereas on TikTok, that doesn't need to be the case. Some of my followers might see the video and some of them might not. But because so much of TikTok is going on the For You page, the For You page isn't based around who you follow. It's based around the content that you consume. So unless people are going to the following page, which I feel like isn't really the case for a lot of people, or specifically going to your page to look at your content, it doesn't really matter if they follow you or not. Whereas on Instagram, it does.
Okay, that makes sense. So discoverability is a lot easier on TikTok, but when it comes to Instagram, you feel like there's a lot more of a community where the right community will follow you.
For sure. And I think it's changing because with Instagram, Reels has been growing so much. And I feel like Reels is on par with TikTok now. So now when people go on Instagram, they still can see your content even if they don't follow you. But the fact still is that if they do follow you, you're going to show up on their feed, or it's very likely you're going to show up on their feed. Whereas on TikTok, you might not.
Interesting. And I find just from the line of work that we do here at Yalla, so we do a little bit of work with brands and as the agency arm. And what I find is we're usually looking at TikTok because music can blow up on TikTok and there's a distribution. But when it comes to actual like products, they would be looking more for Instagram because it's like you said, they have that sense of community that you've built. And generally, if you post that content, your community is going to find it, whether, it's like the best, most shareable content or not. Versus TikTok, like you mentioned, it's just really based on the content. It's the first 3-second rules from what I've gathered.
For sure. And I think the thing with TikTok is a lot of people love TikTok because, like I said before, it's where you can blow up. It's where you can grow overnight. You can gain thousands of followers. But with Instagram, and like even if you take my profile, for example, there's a higher floor. There's like a basement level of like, okay, my videos are probably going to get at least this amount of views. Whereas TikTok, I can post a video tomorrow and it can get 5 million views, and I can post the exact same video the next day and it can have 10,000 views. It's just like, did the algorithm grab it or did it not? Whereas Instagram, there's a bottom.
The algorithm will start creating that ecosystem for us, like whether it's on YouTube, whether it's Snapchat, or whether it's TikTok and Instagram. And that's where brands will then look and see what aligns with their needs. So if, for example, when we're talking about music and we're talking about like the objective of the record label / the brand is to distribute to as many people, TikTok makes the most sense, right? If you're looking for a demographic that's mostly like on the younger side, even younger than the Gen Z, then Snapchat may make more sense. And then Instagram, like you said, has a more loyal following. I just want to now just transition this back into pre-agency. So before you had an agency, did you cold call brands? Like walk us through that process, because I know a lot of content creators get a little discouraged when brands don't come to them. So how did you go about it?
So I was very lucky and privileged to be in a position where, for the most part, brands would reach out to me. So I was very lucky in that sense, and I never really did any like complete cold calls. I would just have brands reach out to me, and I would kind of do the work in terms of negotiating and all that. But I know a lot of content creators that do make cold calls, and I think that's kind of why one of the reasons why agencies help, because they have those connections. A lot of the times when you reach out to a company by yourself, no agency, no nothing, the company might just not get back to you. They might not even read the email. They might not even entertain it because they're like, okay, there's just some kid or some person sending me an email that wants to work with us. Whereas if it's an agency, it's like, okay, we've heard of this agency before, we've worked with this agency before, whatever the case may be. It's just more reputable. So I would say don't don't give up on cold calling, because it's just like it's a matter of time. It's kind of like a numbers game. You're probably going to get a lot of rejections, but you have to keep working until you get someone that wants to work with you.
And I like how you kind of preface that, is that your experience, you were privileged enough, lucky enough that people were contacting you. At the same time, the benefit of having an agency is the fact that they can actually do all that work. They have that economies of scale. They have the connections. They have the right network to really get you there.
And I think another thing to keep in mind, and it's something that I didn't really learn until I essentially signed with my agency, is that a lot of these brands, especially the big brands, they have a budget. They have a certain amount of money that they need to spend each quarter, each month, whatever the case may be. And a lot of the time, say it's coming to the end of the quarter and they still have money left over, they're like, okay, we need to spend this money. So they're reaching out to agencies. They're saying, well, we still have this amount of money. Do you have any creators that are working with you that would be interested in this? Whereas if they have that leftover money, they're not going to message individual people, or very rarely are they going to message individual people, because they're just going to go to the connections that they already have, which is the agencies.
So just kind of like on that note, the downside of an agency, I wouldn't say the downside, but the question that a lot of content creators will ask themselves is two things. One is the transparency aspect. How can we ensure that the agency is being transparent about what they're getting paid versus what they're paying the content creator? And then the second thing is the percentage that they're taking worth the cut?
So to answer your first question, I think a lot of it is trust. You need to, there's lots of agencies out there. There's some shady agencies and there's some not shady agencies. And I've been very lucky and very happy to be with the agency that I'm with. And they have my complete trust.
How do you trust them though?
How?
Not to put you on the spot, but like what do they do to show you that, hey, this is something that you can trust us? So
the first thing is, when it comes to trust in terms of, am I getting paid what the number that they're saying, and is that the right number? One thing that you can do, and something that I have, is like, I am CC'd on all these emails. So even though I'm not the one necessarily responding, I am watching and keeping an eye on like what is happening throughout the entire process, from the beginning of when they pitch me to negotiating a price to having the content ready.
Good.
I know what is going on. So that's one way that like they have my trust. And that's kind of the money side. But I think another thing, and honestly even bigger to me, is trusting that they are putting in as much effort as you want them to. Because it's hard. No one is ever going to put more effort into your product than you. And I think that's a reason why, and we could get into it later, like why I love working for myself, because I know no one's going to work harder for Jessie than Jessie. But when it comes to them, they have shown me from the minute I signed with them until now that they genuinely care about not just my social media platform and my page, but also my well-being, and have been so helpful throughout the whole process that they have my full trust in terms of like, they are really putting in the effort and doing what's best for me.
I do think it's really important for content creators to trust their agencies, and the agencies to actually put in the work, because I do see those two things as having a pain point, where the content creator just becomes a little paranoid, but also keeping in mind that different agencies have different business models. So as long as they're being transparent with you, that should also be very clear in terms of managing expectations. But also we know and we see a lot of agencies that just want to sign content creators and just kind of like put them on the shelf so no one can take them, and just to show that, look, this is how many content creators that we have, but they don't have enough business for a lot of them. And so what ends up happening is that the larger ones, or the ones that are brand favorites, will keep getting deals, but the ones that they've signed that are not necessarily in the forefront of brands will kind of get shelved for the whole year.
100%. And I think, going back to, you were asking me about like, how do I know if the percentage they take is worth it for me?
Yeah.
It depends on, like, everyone's different. For me, I was happy with the percentage they were taking for a couple of reasons. One, I told you earlier, I was not interested in doing the paperwork, reading the contracts, doing the negotiating. Like, it's not for me. It doesn't bring me happiness. I didn't care to do it. So for that, I was like, okay, the percentage they take, I think, is fair. And then two, which I think is even the bigger thing, is I told you before how, a lot of brands will reach out to the agencies. So when I sign with my agency, I kind of sign with the mentality that they would probably bring me more deals than I would get by myself. So even though they're taking a cut, in the end, I'm probably still going to make more money. And even though they're taking a percentage, they could probably negotiate better than me and agree for a higher amount of money than I would be able to do by myself. Because like I said, I hate negotiating. So like they're used to it. That's their job. So they probably are getting more money than I would have been able to agree on in the first place.
And I like how you're also like being very aware of the things you like and the things you don't like, and just focusing on what Jessie actually enjoys, which is creating content, versus trying to just be a master of all trades. And what is it called? A jack of all trades and a master of none. That's what I was trying to say. And that's very important for anyone who's trying to start any type of business, whether it's content creation or any venture, is just to understand what you're good at and what you can outsource. And for you, it was outsourcing the management, someone to review the contracts, someone to cold call and get you the deals. That being said, just as a content creator, looking back, what do you think is the biggest mistake content creators nowadays are making?
I think the biggest mistake content creators are making now is two things. I think one is making content that doesn't make them happy. And I know it sounds so cliche to say, and it's like, oh, like happiness, but it's genuinely true, because when you start making content for the numbers, you start to lose the love for it. And then that can just kind of snowball into you not wanting to make content anymore. It's very easy in the beginning when you start getting crazy views to just want to continue to make those videos. And that happened to me. When I started with the Toronto Man character, as soon as DK kind of blew up, I started posting like every single day, like a DK video. And I was starting to make videos that I wasn't even enjoying making. But because they were getting views, I was like, I got to keep making these. I got to keep making these. I want to keep growing. And I eventually stopped liking doing the character. I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I think that is the biggest thing, is you need to continue to make content that you enjoy, that you're happy with. Eventually the views will come. And then I think the other thing is, don't pigeonhole yourself into one thing. It's good to have a niche for sure, but if you want to try something new, try something new. If I didn't try something new, Uncle Yusuf would have never existed.
Well, thank God you tried something new. We all love Uncle Yusuf. And I think there's a lot of value to what you just said, because a lot of times people are just looking for the numbers and they think this is going to be the means to an end. But if you're not enjoying the process, then is it really worth it?
Exactly. And that's the thing with Uncle Yusuf. The Toronto Man character was first. I started with Uncle Yusuf, and immediately all the comments were, bro, we don't want this. We don't like this character. Go back to DK, go back to DK. But I was like, man, I enjoy doing Uncle Yusuf. I like Uncle Yusuf. I'm having fun doing this Uncle Yusuf character. So I stuck with it, and now he is the biggest character on my page, and I still enjoy making the videos. And that's why I feel like I've been able to be so successful up until now.
I love that. And Uncle Yusuf happens to be a lawyer as well. How did you come up with the fact that he's a lawyer?
So the lawyer character came from, I don't even know how long ago it was now, but when there was the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard lawsuit, when all that was happening. And honestly, it's funny to say, but a lot of my best ideas come when I'm in the shower. And I remember I was in the shower and the thought just came to me, like, what if Johnny Depp had an Arab lawyer? And then I just kind of started running with the ideas, and I just thought it was so funny because the whole courtroom, it was just so crazy, and the fact that we could all see it live, and like I was watching almost every day on TikTok live. I was like, man, this is just gold, like comedic gold, and that's kind of where the lawyer started. And then from there, we did Johnny Depp, and we did Shakira, and we did I think The Rock. We've done a whole bunch of stuff with the lawyer character. So I love doing lawyer Yusuf.
I love that. I remember the Shakira video, the shakshuka, dead.
I remember saying, her hips, they don't lie.
That's so funny. I was like, oh man. What's the next bit you're going to do for Uncle Yusuf?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Really, I have no clue. A lot of the ideas, they come to me like a day or two before I film them. If you have any ideas, let me know.
I wanted to go back to just the content creation element as well. So you keep describing yourself as a content creator. And I know that for a lot of content creators out there, there is kind of this debate whether you're a content creator or an influencer. What's the difference between a content creator and an influencer, and why do you choose to be considered a content creator?
I feel like to a lot of people there is no difference, but when it comes to the word content creator, I believe that. I think I am a content, or I don't even want to say I think I am a content creator because I am a creator who makes content. Like I create content. That's what it is. When it comes to influencer, it's a bit harder for me to accept that title because I don't know, it's kind of cringy to me to say like, yeah, I'm an influencer. Like that's like, I don't know if I really influence people. I think I can cheer people up and make them laugh, but I don't know if it's enough to say that I influence them. So I like to just kind of keep it as content creator. Maybe some people like the title influencer. It's not for me. Also, I don't know if I'm even on that level yet. So we'll just stick to content creator.
Okay, I like that. I respect that. So it's kind of like, you know what? You resonate more with content creator, but in terms of kind of like the way you look at content creation versus influencer, is it influencer as someone who influences people? Is that what I would describe it as? A content creator, you can still influence people.
Yeah. I also feel like, I don't know why, and maybe this is just wrong, but with the word influencer, I just think of like way bigger, like the top of the top, like the Charlie D'Amelios and the Logan Pauls and the this, like that's kind of what I view as like an influencer.
Buddy, Uncle Yusuf is an influencer.
Uncle Yusuf will be there.
100%. And now, just on that note, we talked about making content creation a full-time job, the difference between now influencer and content creator. What is the next chapter for content creators, or what would be the next chapter for you as Jessie?
It's a question I ask myself all the time because there's a lot of sides to it. One, I know that I'm not gonna be able to do this for the rest of my life. It's just, I just don't think it's realistic that, like, you know, who knows how long TikTok is going to last, how long Instagram is going to last, or even how long I'm going to want to continue to do this. But in terms of like the next chapter, I'd love to try my hand at stand-up comedy. I think it's so tough. I think it'd be such a challenge. That's something I definitely want to try. And the other is I've been wanting to make videos where I'm just helping people, giving money, whether it be like getting donations from my followers and giving that money to people in need. Just kind of, I don't know. I'm very proud of the content I make now, but I feel like that would just make me feel really fulfilled.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's completely normal, and we don't really necessarily need to have a full set of a plan for the next chapters for anybody. But just kind of having this hunch that you're curious to go and dabble more in stand-up comedy. You want to try changing up your content to doing something that you feel is going to be food for the soul, and then just taking it at one step at a time. I think that's something that's very valuable for anyone who is listening, is that you don't necessarily need to know exactly what you're going to do next. I do think there's a lot of cool things that content creators that I've seen can do just in general. Like as a content creator, I do think now it's synonymous, or not synonymous, it's now content creation has become a prerequisite as well to becoming an entrepreneur. So if you have a product or a brand or something, you being a content creator just makes you like have a superpower. So like, you know, imagine Uncle Yusuf releases a law book. Okay, baby, don't release a legal book, but like imagine Uncle Yusuf releases something that kind of fits with the brand. And I find that very fascinating to see like how the world of entrepreneurship has now entered with content creation. You see a lot of content creators, like you said, like your curiosity is get into stand-up comedy, acting, creating music. So the world is like your oyster. It's really refreshing to see, to talk to you and just see where you want to go and see the excitement and the level of fulfillment that you have. And one of my concluding questions is, at this stage as a content creator, do you feel fulfilled? Why?
That's a very loaded question. I think overall I do, but I think fulfillment is not, I don't think it has to be a 0% or 100% thing. Like I think overall I am fulfilled, but I feel like there's always more. There's always more growth. You know, I want to continue to make more videos, make different videos, inspire people. So Do I feel 100% content and happy with all the content I make? Not 100%, but overall, I feel pretty fulfilled.
I love that. And I like the fact that you acknowledge that fulfillment isn't necessarily like a yes or no. There's a lot of nuances that go to it, but you do feel content and fulfilled in what you're doing. I think that's the most important thing, is whatever you choose to do is you are enjoying the process. You are deriving some sort of satisfaction.
100%. I think that's why like I'm so proud of the content that I make. But it's kind of why I want to try my hand at making, videos where I'm helping people or doing stand-up comedy. I just, I want to continue to feel fulfilled, sorry. And I think continuing to evolve is kind of one of the ways that I do that. I don't want to be stuck doing the same thing forever, because it's fun doing different things.
I love that. Try different things and just, keep at it. As a concluding question, I have for you, Jessie, is that we talked a lot about how do you become a full-time content creator. What advice would you like to give anyone who's listening that wants to make content creation a full-time job?
My biggest piece of advice would be, starting off as a content creator, the biggest thing is, and I know it sounds corny, but making content that makes you happy. That is the most important thing, because if you're making content that doesn't make you happy, at some point you're going to get tired of it. At some point it's not going to make you happy. But if you continue to make content that makes you happy, look, I'm not going to say every single time you're going to become a sensation and the views are going to come and all that, but that's the key. That if you want to make it in that industry, you need to make content that makes you happy. And that is why I started doing the Uncle Yusuf character, because I enjoyed making it. And people didn't love the character in the beginning, but because he made me happy, or doing the character made me happy, I stuck with it and it worked out.
I love that. That's such a positive note for anyone who is listening. Keep doing what you love, and then the rewards are going to happen. Absolutely. And I think this is a formula that can be applied for so many different contexts. So, Mr. Jessie, I want to thank you so much for coming today and talking to us about how to become a full-time content creator. And before I even let you go, would you mind if we can see this character of Uncle Yusuf in action? Just if Uncle Yusuf were to be on this podcast, what would Uncle Yusuf say?
It's funny because I almost never do the character without his signature pink polo shirt, but I'll do my best.
Change it.
The most important thing with content creation, focus. You have to focus, because my son in school, his focus zero. Always focus Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. The most important thing, focus. If you focus in life, everything gonna be okay.
I love that. I was like trying hard not to laugh. That's so funny. It's a focus, kids.
It's all about the focus.
It's all about the focus. What if, trying to think of another scenario. What would Uncle Yusuf say if his son left school to become a content creator?
Well, he would say,
What? You wanna leave school for make joke? You think you are funny guy, yeah? You think you are, what his name? Christy the clown? You think you're gonna make joke for people, you're gonna make money? You're our joke. You are big joke for me. You're gonna stay in school or you're gonna go back home. Bye-bye.
that's probably what he would say.
That's so funny. I feel like I just want to keep doing this the whole entire night. I was like, what if he beats Kim Kardashian? Like, I just... Uncle Yusuf, what is it like dating as a content creator?
Oh, my girlfriend's gonna kill me.
Something you have to know with the dating, when you are a big shot online, the girls, they love it. I go to the club, party, they come to me, they say, oh, you're Uncle Yusuf. Let me have your number. We want to have party. We want to dance. You come home. No, I can't do it. I'm not married, but I am little bit married. So nobody come for Uncle Yusuf. He's already taken, please.
That was so good, man.
It's so true. Honestly, it's so funny because it's I'm sure you guys have heard this thing that's like, when you're not in a relationship, no one hollers at you, and then once you're taken, people are interested. And so the beginning of COVID, I started blowing up, but I wasn't going out at all. And then COVID, kind of finished, and I started going out a little bit more. And I remember going to a club for one of my friend's birthdays, and for the first time in my life, having a girl come up to me to talk to me, and I was like, this is like foreign territory. And I was taken at the time, so I kindly told her that I already have a girlfriend. But it's just like, clout is actually a thing, and it's weird.
So basically, if you want to get more dates, become a content creator.
100%. Yeah,
100%. It's a chick magnet.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, once again, thank you so much, Jessie, for coming on Yalla, Let's Talk. Before I let you go, would you want to say the last few words? Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on TikTok at Jaurji, Jaurji, or Instagram at Jaurji Comedy. I also have a food page called Messy Eats. It's just Jessie, but with an M, where me and my girlfriend try out different spots around Toronto. So check that out as well.
I love that. Sounds delicious. Well, thank you again, Jessie. For everyone who is listening, please don't forget to subscribe. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Rami, and on YouTube. With that said, #YallaBye.